Hey, here we are. Headshot retouching, part 2 of 3. Now, let's get back to the glory of it all. Okay, so here we have it. We ended up with the under eyes there. Now, one thing we didn't touch on is if there were any outstanding little veins in the eyes. I would have taken care of that on either skin, yeah, probably skin retouch, under eyes, that. There's a little vein right there. If you wanted to see what I would do, I would get the healing brush or healing brush tool, and then make it a tiny little rascal there. And now it's not going to take the whole thing out because the opacity of this layer is a little low. So I just go in there and take out, see, I'm sampling and then doing that. And if I wanted to get the rest of it here, I could just go like that and it would take out those little veins. So if I sample up here, get that one there, then I go up here. So I've taken off of both of them now because I didn't do it earlier. But it's not really necessary in this case because the veins aren't that outstanding. Oh, look at now, you got me started. Now I have to do it. Okay, just kidding. Sort of. Okay, so I took out a few of those veins there. And so I just wanted to show you that. So Command 0 to get it back in the window. Window. Double click that. We don't need that right now. So we got that. We got the smoothing done there. Now we're just going to add some contrast to bring out the natural beauty of her eyes. So I'm going to click up here on under eyes because I want to add this layer on top. Command 0 to make that fit. And now down here, the little yin-yang looking style thing there, click on that, the adjustment layers. So we're going to do this. We can go to Levels, Adjustment Layer. Okay. And so now I'm just going to do an extreme adjustment. So I'll just take this mids slider, midtones, swing that over to make it really bright, just so when we paint it back on, it'll be super easy to see. So I'm going to zoom in. Well, first of all, what we can do down here on the levels adjustment, that's the thing we just added. We put this, we did an extreme adjustment to the mids right there. Now what we're going to do is we want to take this off of the entire image because we're only going to paint it back over just the colored part of the eyes. So white reveals, black conceals. So white is revealing the effect we have on this layer, and black will conceal the effect we have on this layer. So now the inverse of white is black, so Command I, fill it with black and take the effect off. Exactly what we want. Now what we want to do here is double click on Levels 1 and name it Eye Contrast. There we go. And just click anywhere once there. So now let me show you what we're gonna do. Holding Z, going to drag it over. Oh, hello. Now we're going to paint it back on. So hitting B on the keyboard or clicking on the brush tool. Now we're going to get, let's see, we're painting back in the eye contrast. We're painting it in the eye there. So I'm going to make the hardness maybe 80%-ish, right? So it's right around there. Now I'm going to hit return to get rid of this. And I have to click on that because it won't let you paint when you've got this selected, the effect is selected. So I'm going to click on the mask. And now we have our brush that we can paint with. Checking over here that we have white as our foreground color. To make sure these are set to pure white and pure black, hit D, gives you the default colors. Then we're going to want to paint with white. So if we wanted to paint with black or want to switch them, is hit X on the keyboard and it switches them. Or you can hit this little bent arrow there and that'll do it. So now let's see, let's go over here. We have black, we're painting with white. Now I want to make this the same size as the colored part of the eye. Using the bracket keys, I'm going to go down a little bit. Okay, that's pretty close. I think we're good. If it wasn't, we would go up here and we could just adjust it right in here. So maybe I'll bring it down a, yeah, little couple pixels less. A couple pixels less. Okay. Return to get rid of that. So now we have that right in there. Center that. Click. And there we go. Maybe one more time. Yeah, that. And it's a little smaller, but that actually looks really good to have a little bit of that line around the iris. See right here, you can see she's got that. So it's kind of enhancing that. So clicking right there once and twice gives it a little tighter circle there. So we have that. Now we can make it look pretty. So we're clicking down here on the effect, and this brings up this. So I'm going to, this is again the histogram showing us what frequencies of light we have. I'm going to raise the shadows up here a little bit. So I have a black point. So clicking over there, going there, and just yeah, move that over a little bit like that. And then I'm going to move this over this way to get some lighter tones in there, about like that. Then we can adjust this midtones. It gets us back to a more natural, natural color to the eye. This is a little visibility guy here, the eyeball. Turn on and off. Okay, so maybe a little less, maybe add a little more black in there. And we're just making it look pretty. There we go. Just really enhancing the natural color of her eye. And so this one's a little bit darker, but for this this situation, we'll be cool with that because that's how it looks. All right. So now we see what that looks like close up, turning the visibility on and off. Okay. That looks good. It's a little sharper there. It's a little twinkle to the eye. Twinkle. And now I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So it's always good to see what it looks like further away. And so maybe a little too much. It looks deer in the headlights. So I'm going to just adjust the mids down a little bit so it's not quite as bright. Maybe bring these highlights down a little. There we go. So that looks a little more natural there. Okay, yeah, that looks cool. Go down a little bit more so you can kind of see it more Instagram size because that's where the world sees pictures. I'll go ahead, Command 0, and get that up like that. So, okay, now that's adjusting it so her natural eye color looks pretty good. What we're going to do now, ooh, we need to sharpen this rascal. Okay, let's do it. All right, so we're going to make a composite layer. So that means that we're going to combine all of these layers into one final layer. It's not the final, it's the midterm. It could be the midterm layer. So we're going to hold Shift, Option, and Command, all three of those. Then holding those down, we're going to press E. So now that gave us a composite layer up here. And so that's all these layers combined. So it's the full picture. So I'm going to double click on where it says layer, and we're going to name that Sharpen. Sort of pirate vibe going there. So Sharpen. Okay, shut up. All right. I was nice to you. Okay, so that's Sharpen. Now, what we're going to do is go to Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask. Okay, so we're going to click right on that. And now I want to see her eye in this little little preview area there. So I'm going to move the cursor over the thing here, her eye. I'm going to click on it, and that'll put it right in the center there. Okay, now I want to see how the sharpening looks. These settings are pretty good for kind of a standard thing. It's what I use much of the time. About 150-ish, 1.5 radius, threshold 3. And now if we zoom in like that, if we click on here just with the hand, press on it and it shows you the preview. It shows the before and after. Now pressing, okay, before and after. So it's some nice sharpening going on there. So now I'll just hit OK, and that'll add that sharpening to that layer. Now, we don't want the sharpening to be on all of her skin. We just have it on her eyes and hair. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a mask on here. We're going to do basically the same idea that we did with the eye contrast. So in order to put a mask on here that is hiding all of the sharpening, we're going to hold the Option or Alt key and press on this little, this Japanese flag looking thing, which is a mask. So click on that, and it'll add a black mask, which remember hides it hidens the effect, or hides the effect that's on that layer. Okay, now we're holding Option or Alt and click on that, adds a black mask, and so now it took the sharpening off, right? Well, it didn't take it off, it just turned off. So now, remember, white reveals what's on the layer, black conceals what's on the layer. So it concealed the sharpening of that layer. So now I'm holding Z, gonna drag in so we can see that. Now we're gonna paint back on the sharpening on the eyes and the hair. So now hitting B again to make sure I have the brush tool. And you can make this a little less edgy, just around, this right now is around 36, so it doesn't have to be that. It can be a little more, a little less, doesn't matter. Just make it a little, the edge of the brush a little softer. So now I want to make sure, because I have black here, I want to make sure I'm painting with white. White is my foreground color. That's what Photoshop paints with. And so now, the brush a little smaller, and just kind of paint over the eye. Okay? Now, I'm going to just make the brush a little smaller with the bracket keys next to P, painting over this, painting up the eyelashes a little bit. That's where you really start seeing it, on the eyelashes there. Make sure I've got that painted, and just barely over the edge of the colored part, so it sharpens that edge. Make the brush a little smaller. I'm going to paint along the waterline down here. So there. And so now that is much sharper. If I turn this off and on, see, now it's a little soft, and now wing, bang, it makes it sharper. So I'm going to paint over this one as well. This eye is a little out of focus because it was at a little different distance from the lens. So, so it's a little soft, but this makes it so it's pretty decently sharp. Okay, we're way zoomed in, so everything's real obvious. So there, painting along there. Okay, and painting that like that. Now we're at normal 100% up here. Now, if we want to see exactly where we painted, it makes it a little bit easier sometimes to do masking. So I have I've clicked on the mask, and then I hit the little backspace key right under the delete key on the keyboard. You hit that, and it shows the mask. This is where I've painted those little spots. Okay, so sometimes it just makes it much easier to painted there. Oops, painted there. Okay, I'm gonna undo. Okay, so so you can mask and paint things on that way. That's one way to do it, or another way. Now I'm gonna hit Command 0 to zoom all the way out, and I'm gonna make the brush bigger. So I'm just gonna use the bracket key right next to P, click it, make it bigger, and so then I'm just gonna paint over her hair so it sharpens up the hair. And being careful to do what I can to not go over the skin too much, right about like that. That should be good. Now I'll make the brush a little smaller, paint up here. You know how the sound brushes make. Okay, so painting right along here. Okay, just dragging. Doesn't have to be super exact. And then like that. Okay, there's not as much hair over on this side. Okay, if you get a little sharpening on the background, doesn't matter at all. Okay, about like that. It's probably hair in there. Oh, look at hair in there. Okay. Okay, so that's basically maybe a little bit on this hair right here. Being careful not to go on her skin. Okay, so now we got that. Looks pretty good. Okay, so now in order to get rid of the red, you want to get rid of the red, I'm going to hit that backspace, or excuse me, backslash key under delete. And there we go. I'm going to Command S to save this little rascal. And now if we turn this visibility on and off, it's just a little bit softer looking. This just sharpens it up a little bit. And that's a good thing. Okay. Now, let's bring a little bit of color into her lips because they're a little bit pale looking. So we're going to very same thing we did with the eye contrast. We're going to use level adjustments. So let's go right here down this little yin yang rascal there and go up to levels. Okay, now the same thing. We're going to darken it up a little bit. There's her lips there, but just the picture. We're just going to raise this up a little bit, which darkens it. It's just darkening the image. And that's what we want. And now we're going to take it off, right? So the inverse of white is black. So Command I will inverse that. It takes that effect off. Double click on the word, the words levels 1, and type lips. It's a secret. Okay, so now we're going to paint it back in. So we click on the mask so we can paint it back in there. Zooming out. Now I'm going to hold Z, zoom in. I'm going to use a real soft brush on this rascal. Okay, so clicking B, make sure you're in the brush tool. Click on this little down arrow up here. Got the soft round. Now I'm going to go ahead and make it about 0% hard, so that's 100% soft. Hit return or enter. And make the brush a little smaller using the bracket key. Then I'm going to just paint over there. And sometimes on the inside parts here, I'll just paint a little further, and then I'm going to go back and trim it away. And it's easier to do it the opposite way. So there we go. 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 Do we get in here? There we go. There we go. There we go. Don't worry how it looks right now. We're going to adjust it. We're going to adjust that bad boy. Okay, so now we got to paint it in there. We hit that backspace key. You can see that's what we have. Cool. Backspace key again. Now I'm going to hit X because I want to swap these. It's white on top now. We want black because we're going to paint away. So I'm just going here and just trim it away from right like that. Trim it up a little bit down there. See, just pulling that back a little bit. Okay, trim away there. Trim away, way there. Up there, down there. Okay, yeah, it looks pretty good. It's in the right spots. Gonna zoom out a little bit. Now, a little bit dark. Bit. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move this, excuse me. I'm gonna change it to a multiply blend mode on the lips. That way, it'll contour to the highlights and shadows on the lips. So right here where it says normal, just go to multiply. Don't worry, it'll darken it right now, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to change it. So multiply. Now you see how it contours a little bit more. But what we can do now is we can adjust it because it's a little bit dark. See, that's a little bit much. Okay, so now we'll move that back. Let's see, let's try moving that up a little bit. Get some like that. Do we need some black in there? Probably not. And so, okay. And now it's definitely looks a little more natural in that. But we're going to lower the opacity now. So here, let me get that like that. Okay, I'm going to turn it on and off. the visibility. Okay, that's quite dramatic. So now I'll just lower the opacity a little bit more. Okay. See, now there, it's starting to look a little bit more natural. That's actually not too bad. Okay, it's at 55. I have these settings. I have 4, 1.52, and 243 up here, but that's just, you know, a matter of taste. And so you can try that, you know, adjust how you believe it looks good. Because right now we're going for sort of natural looking. We're not going for heavily affected or anything like that. So again, Command S will save that little rascal. I'm using that word rascal too much. So sorry. Yeah, that looks pretty good, pretty nice. Okay, so now I'm going to double click on the word properties so it'll minimize that. I'm going to hold Option and click on the eyeball of the background layer. Remember we talked about it in part 1. Holding Option, click it. This takes everything off. See, it turns off all the layers. And that's what we started with. And now holding Option and clicking on that eyeball again turns everything back on. So it's a subtle difference, but it just really helps things pop. Everything's looking good. It's the really nice version of the person, and it looks natural. It's not like it's way over retouched or anything like that. And that's the important thing, especially for headshots. You want that to be that way. Okay, okay. Okay, there's a little situation going on out there, a little racket. Let's see, now that is that for that. And we did our sharpening, we got that happening. So now, to make this headshot dimensions, we need to make it 8 by 10. So I'm going to hit C to get the crop tool. And now we have that. Right up here, our dimensions are 10 by 8 by 300, because this is longer that way. We're doing it landscape orientation. So I click once in here, and then I can move it around. So I want to include her hair over here. This is as wide as it gets. And then we can include a little bit of the shoulder there, and that'll be a nice crop there. So then you just need to hit the checkbox there. And there. Now it's 8 by 10, 10 by 8 actually, and 300 ppi. So that's exactly the headshot dimensions, what it's going to need to end up being. So holding Command S or pressing Command S. Now, for a headshot, you want the person's name on there. So this person's name, let's see, what could it be? Let me see how big this font is. Yeah, probably around 30 points is good for a headshot of these dimensions and this resolution. So I'm just going to click once. I'm using Helvetica Neue Thin. You can use whatever nice font you want, because this is a business situation here as a headshot. So now this is going to be Raquel de Monte. Just made that up. Okay, so now that I have the name typed in there, I'm going to use white for this so it'll pop out, because there's a lot of dark tones in here. So I can hit OK on that. Now, that's a pretty good size font for this. It's 30 points. And that looks good there. So I'm going to save this. And that's looking pretty good. So now what we want to do, all we have to do is save as JPEG. So File, Save As. And then we're going to put Print right at the end of this. Oops. Print at the end of it. Now, you can't just change the extension. You need to change the formatting right here, and it'll convert it. So now just save that into, for us here at school, into our last name folders. But if you're not at school, then somewhere else. Okay, now we're saving this into that folder, hitting save. Now we're always going to use the highest quality, use maximum 12 all the way over there, and then hit OK, and that will save that. Okay, so right now, that's the end of this section. We have this all saved. It's the exact dimensions. If your client sends it off to printing, it'll be perfect dimensions for an 8x10 for their headshot. So we'll get back with some fun things in the next part. All right, bye-bye.